For my boats, I'll be using the battery tender battery. It's a little bit more expensive, but it lasts me for the whole day. I never had troubles with it. So from there, as you could see on my first battery, on my first boat, my first Hobie, it was like 14, 12 gauge. From there, I moved up to the 10 gauge for vibration. Because the smaller gauge, I had a break right at that point there. So with the thicker wire, I'll do away with that problem. This is a comparison of the wires. From the power connector, we're going to be going to the cable that we made. You'd be going into a fuse. I would put the fuse at the side of the battery just because it's going to get quite busy up where you have the switches. Then you're going to be going into your twisted wires, which make sure you have plenty enough room, plenty enough wire to make the run. But before doing that, make sure of your fuse. I will put it on closest to the battery. Okay, so from there we're going to go up to the front part of the boat. At this point we want to put splices in the middle of the wire. From this we'll be splitting it, and by doing that we're going to take the wire shears, wire strippers, and just make a nice even channel. Nice big channel to work with. Now a tip, I don't take the insulation all the way off. It makes it a lot easier working when we're wrapping around screws or wires or whatever. The electrician strip. So I'll just keep that on until I solder it. Now with the plastic, you can see it snugging up. I would solder it, snug it up, cut it off, and then I would be heat shrinking it. Well, not heat shrinking it, but hot glue. You take a hot glue gun, but in this case I just had one to do, so I just heated it up with my little torch and melted it on. Okay, you're going to be repeating that for every step. Okay, when I'm done with that, or plastic dip, and I want to coat this go to good. You want to do this job only once. After hot gluing, we want to get a nice coat of some liquid tape or some plastic dip or some sort of rubber to get around it. These seals are also very important. Make sure that you don't have to go back and touch them. Okay, after that, we're going to get on to crimping on the male connectors. Okay, for this, my tool of choice is the lineman pliers with the double crimpers. Okay, I want to take some either liquid tape, but you get the idea for there. Okay, next on, we're working with the ground. So normally you go for all males. The male is the protruding piece of metal. The female is always where the male goes into. That's how you know the difference. Okay, there is a few exceptions to that rule. Going to switches is one of them. When you have a lit switch, you have to bring a ground to it. So for there, I would have to use a fork. I use lineman's pliers with the double crushing. Okay, and really whale it on there. Okay, as hard as you can. After that, pull on it with all your might. Make sure it goes on. And I don't put no glues or anything like this. You might want to put some silicone grease on it, only because if I see it fall out, I know it failed. I don't want to see corrosion in it. I just want to protect it from corrosion. But you're soldered, you're insulated, double insulated. You got your ground connector. Now it comes to your switches. Okay, let me see if I could explain this. Have anybody heard of Primitive Pete? Well, here it goes with the turkey baster. After you have your lines in, okay, you're going to have double crimped on your connectors. You're going to have the grounds going to males. Okay, you might have a switch. This is the exception to the rule. If you have a switch that has a light on it, you're going to have to bring a ground to that switch. Okay, so you're going to have to use a protected female. A female is always, you always go into a female, and it's always protected. It's always protected by insulation. Okay, I can't say that enough. Okay, from there, we're going to be going to the switches. Okay, you have your power line and your ground lines made up. Now it's time to go to the switches. I picked up my switches, and I thought it was kind of nice that they had printed labels that came with the marine switches. It came with a bank of 4 that I got off of Amazon. Anyway, I'll be taking the switch, disassembling the rubber boot, the waterproofing, taking the nut off, taking the other nut off. Bear with me. Okay. Then I'll be taking tape, because I'm going to be spraying it with in this case, Rust-Oleum leak seal. Dun dun dun. And I'm going to be protecting the switches. Okay, this is not the actual switch that I'm using, because I used my very nice switches that I got from Amazon. Okay, you cover them up. Okay, I'm doing this really quick so you get the idea. Everything's protected. Okay, you don't want anything to go in there. It's going to be protected by the rubber boot. Okay, you want to go over it like a couple times, two, 3 times. Make sure you get all the parts, you know, in between. Do a better taping job than this. Okay, let it dry until it's tacky. Then rip these things off. Then you're ready to drill your holes and assemble it and make your connections in the boat. This is the switch panel on my kayak. The first switch is going to my 3D transducer, which has a power pack which I located underneath my seat. And there's also another switch underwater lights that I have where I picked up the light switches from an automotive supply dealer. Okay, those you'll be needing the extra ground for. Okay, the second switch in is a stern light. That's going to be stern light, and also it's going to be acting as a charging station where you could plug into. We'll be having my 2006 Hobie Outback as a guest next week. We'll be discussing routing of the wires, uh, batteries, and other parts. I'll be talking on hull crushing and how to prevent it and how to reverse it.